Hey guys, welcome back to the War Room. Just wanted to get ready for this upcoming game that I'm going to be a part of, and just wanted to go over some of my units, uh, go over the colors, that'll mean certain things, and how certain sculpts I'm going to use without uh, a color unless needed. Uh, just different things like that. So we'll go ahead and start over here with, we'll start with the cavalry. Okay, so with the cavalry, I don't have specific sculpts. So what I'm gonna do, I did this last game, I'm gonna take the cavalry unit and I'm gonna slap whatever faction or country that it belongs to under it, such if, the Germans, I think they started out with some cavalry. I'm going to just slap a German round under that cavalry, and it will become a German cavalry. Not, hopefully won't, have this forever, but right now I don't have enough cavalry units to paint each individual country some cavalry units yet. Just don't have enough for that yet, so it's a work in progress. So that's what we're going to do for this game. Okay, and we'll go ahead and we'll start up top here so I don't forget about it. Have some British Gurkhas, specialized unit. Have a special sculpt, and I went ahead and bought some roundels, so I have some roundels to go with my Gurkhas. And Chindits, don't have any roundels for my Chindits, but yeah, as you can see, they have a different rifle, a little different pack there, a little different hat, and are in a different stance. So those are Chindits, and really cool sculpt. So we'll move on here. So we have the militia. All of my militia, whatever unit's on, it's going to have, if it's a militia, it's going to have a yellow chip or these yellow militia markers. Okay, moving on to Marines. With the Americans, I do have these specific Marine roundels or markers, acrylic markers. And I went ahead and put some blue paint there. With generally what I'm going to do with the units that I don't have, I don't know any unit except maybe the Japanese and British. I have specific Marine roundels for them, but all other units, it's going to be a blue chip. Marines come from the ocean, or wherever they meet a body of water and they're doing amphibious things. So went ahead and gave them blue, just for water. You know what I mean? Moving on to airborne. Generally speaking, I have these airborne sculpts. If I don't have airborne sculpts, which I don't think I have any for the Russians, they're gonna have a white marker there on their base, and that airborne roundel there. You guys can read that airborne marker, and I'm not gonna put a chip under them. Just gonna have that white marking there, and just did white for clouds. Come from the clouds, all white. So there's that. So don't forget about this Panzer Grenadier. Have a specialized sculpt for them. I think that is just, yeah. So I don't think any other unit except maybe a Tiger, I might slap a SS marker under them just because they're a specialized unit compared to heavy armor. But we'll get to that just a little bit later. Yeah, there's a Panzer Grenadier. I'll go ahead and put a SS marker just because I really like the SS markers. I think they're really cool. And yeah, so we'll continue on here. All right, with mountain infantry, I do have some mountain markers. Naturally, I didn't grab them for this video, but just in general purposes, gonna have this regular brown chip under an infantry to signify a mountain infantry for every unit in the game. Okay, all right, we have anti-aircraft. I think that's just the general Axis and Allies anti-aircraft artillery, and so pretty basic there. Okay, we have regular artillery. I mean that's pretty general with Axis and Allies sets. With that artillery piece there, and I did see I have this for the Americans. I do have this advanced artillery sculpt that I can use, but not every country that I don't have advanced artillery sculpts for every country. So if somebody were to roll a tech for advanced artillery at this time, I'll just slap some red paint onto a regular artillery piece and it'll be advanced artillery. So just gotta make things work. So I'm glad we can have the opportunity to make a video and so everyone's on the same page. Okay, so have these I think it's a M7 Priest that I'll use for self-propelled artillery. I think the Brits, they have self-propelled artillery. I went ahead and put that German sculpt there because if that is actually not a Hummel. That is I think it's the Nashorn. That big gun on it. If it's a sculpt similar to that, it's going to have a white is what I'm going to use for self-propelled artillery. And if it's advanced self-propelled artillery, just going to slap some with that white barrel. I'm going to slap some red on it just for general purposes. And then with the Russians, with their specialized Katyushas, when they get the improved factories, that is the sculpt. I have the Katyusha sculpts. Okay. All right. Moving on to motorized infantry. Okay. With the Americans, gonna have those regular trucks that can be used for mechanized or anything. But this game, I'm gonna use those for motorized. And if in other countries, which I think most countries start out with a motorized unit, gonna have that silver paint just for most basic, in general purposes. If it's basic or from World War One, like your ships, which a bit later, it'll have silver on it. And for mechanized, I'm gonna use these Jeeps, these Willys Jeeps. If I need to, I'll use these for mechanized as well, depending on what people build. But I'm hoping that this unit here, these armored personnel carrier, I guess, or armored vehicle, use those as advanced mechanized. I'll probably slap some red if they get on the board, but I'll probably use these 3D printed half tracks as advanced mechanized to start out. And with other countries that don't have specific sculpts, it'll look like, for instance, that motorized infantry, instead of silver, it'll be red. So just for general principles. Okay. All right. So moving on, we have a light tank. Okay. I think every unit or every country, I do have a light tank sculpt. So if anyone has any questions, what is that, can definitely answer that quickly. It's easy to see, and yeah. So, all right, we'll move on. Got tank destroyers with every country. Do have tank destroyers, so like this German Nashorn. I'm almost positive that's Nashorn. Having brain farts right now, but if for instance, the Germans, if they build a tank destroyer, I'm going to just stick a unit that looks like that out there, but it won't have any paint on it. It'll just be there to be a tank destroyer. May put some blue on it if needed. Okay. All right. So those are M18 Hellcats. They're M18. No, M18 might be towards the Wolverines, but pretty sure that's M18 Hellcat. Also have some T28 or 9 super heavy. They're actually classified as super heavy tank, but I like to use them as a super heavy tank destroyer because I think they look awesome. And by that I have sculpts for the Americans and British, just because HPD offered them. But that's what those are. Didn't get the tortoises for the Brits. Didn't think about it at the time, but that's what we have right now. Okay, then moving on to medium armor. Basic. I think every unit comes with a medium armor sculpt. Just be I'll have some basic battle pieces on for certain countries. Yes, that came with the Action Ally set. So heavy tanks, I think every country I have a heavy tank sculpt. Definitely bigger. You should be able to tell those pretty easily. But if not, you can always ask me. Okay, just specialized unit with the German Tiger. I do have other heavy armor for the Germans. I think I got some mouse sculpts and some Tiger 2 sculpts, just because I think they looked awesome. And put the Tiger 1 there just because it's a specialized unit in the game. Okay, all right, moving on to aircraft. So we have seaplanes, any fighter size aircraft. If it has blue on it, it's going to signify a seaplane. Okay, then fighters, standard small aircraft, and those will be pretty basic. Okay, then we got some jet fighters. Every single country except Russia, I have jet fighter sculpts, so that will just be a work in progress for them. I need to get some, but I don't have any yet. So if for the Russians, if I do build a jet fighter, I'll probably take a fighter and put some red on it just in case. I think that's what I had to do last game when Mark the Shark built some jets naturally. Okay, all right, so have some tactical bombers. Thank all the countries I have that basic tactical bomber sculpt, bigger than a fighter, smaller than a bomber. So that's what that is. Okay, with the strategic bombers, heavy air transports, and medium bombers, they're all kind of the same sculpt on general principles, except certain sculpts that I have, like that 3D printed heavy transport, or it's just a regular air transport that I haven't painted up right now, but that's what that is. So if it's yellow on a bomber, it will be a medium bomber. If it's black, it'll be a regular strategic bomber. And then we get into the awesome looking red and black. That will be your heavy strategic bombers and your heavy air transports. Okay, and then that's just a regular transport sculpt that I found there. All right, moving on to the naval units, and I will have to explain some units just because I haven't had a run-in with painting up those sculpts yet. So with your regular transports, they're either going to be that regular transport sculpt from Axis and Allies sets, or just with this Anzac piece, I found it hard from looking across the map at a distance to tell what it was, so I went ahead and put some white. I think the Anzacs are the only one that I had that problem with, but I went ahead and put some white on that sculpt, just in case, or just to make sure, And then we have the heavy transports. If I don't have a specific sculpt for it, it's gonna have some red on it. Okay, it's gonna be that basic sculpt, but have some red on it. I may put some white on it in the future, but have these awesome American sculpts that I got, and I'm gonna use those as attack naval transports. Okay. All right, moving on to submarines. With the coastal subs, I have silver paint if they're coastal, and that's like silver paint if they're a coastal defense ship or torpedo boat destroyer. Okay, just I realize that's it's a cruiser. You know, you had Dreadnought class from World War One type ships. So I went ahead and went with a smaller cruiser just because on basic principles they had that had that form. And then regular submarines, I don't have any markings. And just so I don't forget, I'll go ahead and say that if somebody does get advanced submarines, it'll be regular fleet sub sculpt with red on it. You know, red means awesome in this game. There are my sculpts in this game too. Moving on, we have the destroyers. Have these awesome 3D printed pieces, sculpts that I got from HPG that look just absolutely awesome. Don't know if that's a Farragut or a Gearing. I think it's a Farragut. Yeah, it's just a Farragut, but just look absolutely awesome. But if it's a destroyer, it's green. Light cruiser, yellow. Heavy cruiser, red. Battle cruiser, it will have a purple paint. If it's a regular battleship, it will have no paint. It will just be the specific sculpt. They're pretty easy to tell. They're one of the biggest units on the board, so it should be hopefully work out well where they'll be visible. If somebody builds heavy battleships, it'll just be a battleship with some red on it. Figured I'll use these 3D printed pieces first, just because they're all the more awesome to do that with. Escort carriers, we have yellow, light carriers, escort carriers. Fleet carriers have red. Heavy fleet carriers, I'll probably put 2 things of red, so you know, 1, 2, have one here. If that were to occur, which I'm sure it will in the near future, just haven't ran across it yet. Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and go over some factories, minor factories, that normal sculpt, medium, and major. Okay, all right. And before we go, just want to make it clear that if I'm gonna use these gray chips for numbers, never going to use those green chips, never going to use those red chips for numbers. Don't want to have to do math in my head while doing a video. I'm not a math whiz, so I'm going to use gray chips. You know, if there's 40 infantry in Moscow, there's going to be 39 chips and an infantry set on top of it, just to signify those numbers. You know what I mean? So just so everyone knows. Okay? All right, guys. That is all of the units, pretty much. If I left anything out, always open for questions. But yeah, so. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one.